Hi, my name is Cindy Rang with the Fabric Patch in Ephrata, Washington, and I am just going to explain very briefly about rotary cutters. Now, the first thing I want you to know is that no one has sponsored this discussion. This is just life according to me, and I'm going to tell you that for about 6 hours out of every day, all day long, I use a rotary cutter, and that's all I'm doing is cutting fabric. So I'm going to tell you what I know. What I know is that Olfa and Fiskars, pretty much similar. I just happen to have a bunch of Olfas here, but they're all basically the same in the way that they're designed, which is they have a plastic handle, they have a metal nut, and then they have the blade. All kinds of little blade sharpeners that you can buy. I'm going to tell you that I personally have never found one that I think works very well. So really you just have to replace the blades. All of the blades cost basically about the same amount. What's interesting about the plastic ones, whether it is Fiskars or Olfa, is that if you do not change your blade promptly, what happens is then you're pushing down harder, right? You just think, well, as long as I push hard enough, I'm going to go ahead and make it through that cut. Well, what's happening is this metal nut is pushing into this plastic housing, and it causes, if you can see this up close, it causes this to happen. See that? This whole thing, it doesn't sit in there properly anymore. The reason that that is significant is because if you have just changed a blade, for some reason your rotary cutter isn't working properly, and you go to cut and you find that it is wobbly, almost as if it's shredding the fabric and bad things are happening, it's because your rotary cutter is now broken. This one is broken. This one will not cut properly because what has to happen is it has to roll just like a wheel. And if it's lobbing along because it has an oval opening right there, you cannot use this any longer. So even though these rotary cutters are about $15 to $20 cheaper than these, if you do a whole lot of cutting and if you're not very good about changing your blade, you might consider something that has a metal opening. And so what'll happen is there is the Quilter Select, which is one that we like, and there's also Gingers. What they are is they are a heavy rotary cutter. So that's the other thing, is that the weight does a lot of the work for you, just like a heavy iron. Way difference between the two. The other thing with the Quilter Select specifically is that it is a true left or a true right. There is no difference from one side or the other depending upon how you're using it. The other thing about this one in particular is that it's a quick change. So when I do need to change my blade, all I have to do is come in here, pull this up, and my blade comes out. This is magnetic, so all I have to do is come over and hit that. It comes off. Oh, I'm making it seem super difficult. And then I can pick up my new one with the magnet, plop it back in there, and I'm good to go. So the one that I use most often is this one, just because the weight does most of the work. My hand doesn't get tired. I'm not going to wear it out if I go a little bit too long before I change a blade. The blades are only $6 for replacement blades. And everybody who works here in the shop uses this both at the shop and at home. One other thing that I want to mention is that Olfa does make a splash, and it's one of the more inexpensive ones, but it also has that quick change option, which is kind of nice. The other thing that you might see that's different with the others is this one has a little ergonomic handle, and what's different about that is that if you forget to lock your blade, this one has a special locking system that the blade is only exposed when you close it. When you squeeze that, your blade comes out. So a lot of people will use this one. And the other thing I want to mention just briefly is size. The reason that we use little ones is if you are doing some sort of a curved piece with a curved ruler, like the quick curve ruler, in order to make it around that curve, you need a smaller wheel. So that's what the small ones are for. If you decide that you need a big one, like a 60 millimeter, what it is for cutting through multiple layers. If you really like to make quick work and you need to make a quilt super fast and you're cutting through 4 and 5 layers at a time, if you just look at the depth of a rotary cutter, you can see that on this basic 45 millimeter one, you can see that the absolute depth that I'm going to be cutting is still really only about a half an inch. Whereas with a 60 millimeter, you can cut up to an inch thick. And that's what the difference is between the two of them. One other thing I want to mention just really quickly is the idea of a pinking blade. So you can do pinking shears if you'd like to. Pinking shears are really nice. It's an expense of maybe about $35 to get a good pair, and they're difficult to sharpen. But a pinking blade runs about $10, and you can go ahead and just put it in a rotary cutter or take it out and exchange it. Only put the pinking blade in when you need it, if it's something that you use. And it works great on all of your rotary cutters. It's an interchangeable blade. All right, that's it. I just wanted to make sure that you knew what the difference was and what you were buying. And sometimes people say, oh my gosh, I'm not so sure that I need the expense of one like that. But as soon as you have broken one like this, you're right up to the same amount anyway. And it's something that's going to last a little bit longer. And again, you have less hand fatigue because of the weight. So hopefully that was helpful. Hopefully it'll make your cutting a whole lot easier. Thanks a lot for watching.